Okay, well, we begin here. The official Study 50 time is 12:30. Most of you know who I am. I'm Chris Biller. I'm a professor in the Department of Statistics. Many of you were in my Study 10 course on Monday, so you're going to see some similarities to this little introductory material like on Monday, but there are some students who were not enrolled in that Study 10 course, so I do need to go over some of the same kinds of things again. Okay, so let's begin by taking a look at the syllabus. Okay, so Stat 850, Computing Tools for Statisticians. This is the first time that this course has been taught. The purpose of this course is to give you a background in 3 different areas. First, an introduction to SAS. SAS is a statistical software package that allows you to do various data analyses. Also, to give you an introduction to R, which again is a statistical software package that allows you to do various statistical analyses. And then we will do LaTeX and LIX. So LaTeX and LIX are kind of like a word processing package, somewhat similar to Word, but it's used extensively in the sciences to, for example, type papers. I've typed a whole book using this software package. And so it will be good for you to obviously then to have an understanding of how to use it, and not just for, let's say, typing papers, typing books, but to use it in your own classes. I will show you some techniques where you can actually integrate stuff that you do in SAS and R with LaTeX and LIX. And this helps a lot with respect to reproducibility of research. So anyway, so that gives you an idea of what we're going to be doing. We'll basically spend 1/3 of the course on SAS, 1/3 on R, 1/3 on LaTeX and LIX. Now the reason why we decided to offer this course is again to help set you up for success in other courses. Because if you take any other statistics course, and most of you will be using a statistical software package to do various data analyses, but also to do various other research type of calculations. And so there are actually 2 different, so with respect to the statistical software packages, there's actually 2 different teaching approaches that one can use to introduce statistical software packages to students. One way is to, as you take certain courses, let's say a course on linear models, you have an introduction to R. And you learn about R, you start using it in that course. And then when you take a course such as survival analysis, well, you have an introduction to R, and you start learning how to use it. And then you go take another course, let's call it categorical data analysis. You have an introduction to R, or SAS, and you start using it and so on. That's the way that's, I would say, the majority of Department of Statistics approach teaching statistical software to students. That minority, but still a sizable minority, take a different approach. And that is the approach that we are starting to do here. And that is we teach the introductory material all up front. And so that when you go into these other classes, you already know how to use it. And the instructor doesn't have to waste time doing an introduction to it. Because as you will find in many of your classes, there will be students who don't have experience with some of these statistical software packages yet because of where they are in terms of their major or for other reasons. And so that's why we're using this different kind of model to actually teach statistical software packages. And just from my own personal experience, I've done an introduction to R, I would say, pretty much about 3 or 4 times every semester. And oftentimes it's for the same students are taking my courses over and over again, but there are some new students, so that's why I always do that. And I found that to be a very inefficient way to do it, but you need to do it if you're using that alternative teaching format. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, also I anticipate, especially for the statistics majors, I anticipate that there will be a number of you who maybe have experience with R, but not SAS, or vice versa, or maybe even with LaTeX and LICS. And so, I still anticipate, even if you have experience with one of these statistical software packages, or LaTeX, LICS already, you're still going to learn some stuff, okay? But we need to get you up to speed on all this, because these are software packages that are used extensively throughout statistics, and so that's why we have one course now to begin to use it. Okay, so some details here. So my name is, again, Chris Builder. Please call me Chris. Do not call me Dr. Builder. Please call me Chris. My office is in 342C of Hardin Hall, if you're not familiar with that by chance. Here's what Hardin Hall looks like. You see where my mouse is right here. My office is in the northeast corner on the 3rd floor of the north wing of the building. Office hours are basically right after this course for an hour. My email address, builder@unl.edu. My course website is accessible through my web portal, chrisbuilder.com, or you can go to the course website simply by typing, I know it's kind of small, but chrisbuilder.com/stat850. Okay, so there is a recommended book for this course. Unfortunately, I forgot to bring the second edition of this book with me, but I do have the first edition with me here today. This is a book by Shay. If you've ever heard of RStudio, he actually works at RStudio now. He actually did this as part of his dissertation at Iowa State a few years ago. This is a recommended book, and I needed to make book decisions about last March before I had made up any materials for our course. I knew that I was going to talk about some of the stuff that's in this book. I didn't know exactly when I would get to it, but I knew I would talk about some of it. And now, after I've done a lot of extensive course planning, I know that we're not going to get to until mid-November. So most of the semester, you're not going to need this book at all. Also associated with this book, there is a website. Once we get to using the material that would be in this book, there is a website associated with it. And as Shay said as he visited our department last semester to give a seminar, don't buy my book, just use my website. I've never heard of someone say don't buy my book. I won't say that about my book that I've written. Please buy my book. But he says don't buy my book, use my website. I think you can get by with his website for this course. If in the end you like some of the stuff that we talk about when we're doing this, buy the book after the course. But I think the website will be enough. Now, I have read this entire book, and I know there's stuff that I cannot find on his website in this book that I have found to be useful. But I'm more of an advanced user of this stuff than probably what you will get into in this course. So that's why I found the book to be useful. So anyway, so it's a recommended book. That means it's optional. That means you don't have to buy it. It's up to you. There are some additional books that I have included here that you may find useful as a secondary reference. You know, when I was in grad school, you know, for whatever course I was taking, I would, you know, typically check out particular books to help me out to learn the material beyond the book that my professor was using. And so that's why I use this here. Maybe you won't need it in this class, but maybe you will find it useful. Or again, if you find this stuff really cool, here are some additional stuff that you can look at on your own. Now I will tell you about these, or give you some information about these books here. Our library has ways to access free versions of the first two books. You can actually download the PDF of the first book. That first book there is by John Chambers. He is one of the people, or the main person, who actually, you could say, originated a lot of the stuff that was in R. The second book, the format that the library has isn't necessarily the best, but it still does have the content. You just can't download a PDF of it. The last book here actually comes with the R software package. It's a PDF. I had really hoped that this book, considering that we're talking about both SAS and R in this course, was going to be maybe one that I would want to choose. What I have found out through examining it and also actually reading some book reviews about it is, I don't know, I think it kind of jumps in to SAS and R too quickly, almost assuming that you have a certain knowledge about certain things. And so that's why I did not choose this book as a required book for this course or even recommend it. But it could be a useful tool in the end. So prerequisites, Stat 801 or equivalent, what that basically just means is that you have had some statistics, applied statistics course in the past. You know what hypothesis testing is. You know what confidence intervals are. You know what a histogram is, that kind of stuff. The second set of prerequisites is a set of recommended courses, and that is that you have some kind of mathematical statistics course in your background. What that basically means is that you know how to do some of this, some of the stuff in statistics using calculus. Okay. Now this is going to be useful in certain things like I think what we'll do later in the semester is I will ask you to in LIX type up the derivation of a confidence interval for the population mean using a t-distribution. Well, there is, where do you learn that? In a mathematical statistics course. And so I might ask you to type it up to get some experience of using this word processing-like package called LIX. Grades. We will have a midterm and a final. Each of them will be worth 30% of your grade. We will have a number of assignments and at least one quiz this semester that combined together will be 40% of your grade. So let's say, for example, you got a 90% on the midterm, you got an 85 on the final, you got a 95 for all the assignments and stuff. So all combined together in terms of, maybe there might be 300 points, and if you take 0.95 times 300, 285. 285 divided by 300 is 95%. And so if you take 90 times 0.3, if you take 85 times 0.3, and if you take 95 times 0.4, if you add that up, your grade for the semester is 90.5. That's how I find grades. So what does that mean in terms of an overall letter grade then? Well, here's just your standard grading scale that you probably see in most of your courses. I do assign plus and minus grades as well, basically 2.5% from the corresponding cutoff point that you see there. So this 90.5 then would be corresponding to a A minus. Okay? Are there any questions about that? Now, these exams, these will be computer-based exams. After all, the course is called Computing Tools for Statisticians. I need a way to assess your understanding of how to use these computing tools. The best way that I can assess it is through a test using the computers that are at your desk. So you will be using these computers at some point during the semester for tests. the way that I've done tests in the past when I've had a strong computing nature to a course, and it was a computer-based test, is what I will do is pass out a paper copy of the test itself, and that's where you can write all your answers on. And essentially all the computations that you would need to do, you use the computer that's in front of you. So the computer is almost serving as a fancy calculator. That's the way I've done in the past, or that's the way that I mostly have done in the past. But again, due to the high computing nature of this course, I might make it entirely computer-based, where I give you maybe, for example, a Word file that contains the questions of the test, and you have to type your answers in that Word file. I may do that. Again, this is the first time this course has been taught, so I have not made that kind of decision. But it will be some kind of computer-based test. Okay? Exams are closed book and closed note. However, you can use any of my computer programs that are available on my course website. So when we use SAS, when we use R, we're going to be writing a lot of computer programs. I have written a lot of them for you, or a lot of programs for you to help you learn the material. And I don't want you to have to memorize computer code. So, how do we typically, write computer programs? Well, we look at an old program that we've written in the past, we copy and paste it into our editor, and we make changes to it to satisfy the needs of what we're trying to do. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage then with these kinds of tests. So it's not completely closed to everything. You still will have access to my computer programs. You will have access to the help associated with the software package as well. Okay, so all assignments, you need to turn them in electronically using Word documents or PDFs. Of course, you need to, any kind of assignment that you turn in needs to be written in a professional manner using good uses of English. It has to use complete sentences for the stuff that you're writing up. It has to be nicely organized. There's going to be a lot of computer output that you're going to need to stick into the various documents that you're going to hand in to me. And so if I find as though you're not putting everything together in a professional manner, I will return it to you, take off points, and say redo it. I'm a strong believer of group work. So I strongly recommend that you work in a group. Given the size of the course and the nature of the material, I'm simply going to say you can work in pairs. You don't have to, but I strongly recommend it. Because not only can you learn from me, you can learn from your fellow classmates, and especially when you're learning computer software, this can be very, very useful. So I do recommend working in pairs. You don't have to, but I do recommend it. Now, if you do work in a group, though, please make sure that you do group work the right way. Here's the wrong way. Let's say, again, you're in a group of 2, and there are 4 problems on an assignment. Person number 1 does problems 1 and 2. Person number 2 does problems 3 and 4. 5 minutes before class, or when the project is, or when the assignment is due, you simply merge together your Word documents and you hand it in that way without ever talking about the corresponding problem with your partner. That's a very, very poor way of doing it. And if I see that occurring, I will actually lower grades. Rather, the better way to do group work, and there's a few different ways. Here's one, is that separately, each group member tries to do as much as they can, and then they get together and they compare what they've done and start putting together the actual document that they're going to hand in. For problems that maybe one person knew how to do or the other one did not, well, that person who knew how to do it teaches the person who did not know how to do it. For problems that both people didn't know how to do, well, then that's where you can hopefully collaborate and figure it out together. That's the correct way to do group work. Class recording. So all of our classes that we're doing here will be recorded. So as you can see right in front of me here, I have a little webcam. It has a microphone in it. It will pick up my voice. It will pick up all of your voices as well, some better than others, depending on how far you're from the microphone. And what this is going to do is get a live action video of me. Also, it's recording exactly what's on my computer screen as well, along with any kind of annotations that I'm making on my screen. These recordings, after class, what I do is I click on a few buttons on my computer. It uploads the recording to a server that's on city campus. The server has to do some post-processing to it, which takes some time. And I anticipate that, and once that's done, a link to the video is emailed to me. And then what I'll do is put that link of that video to my course, on my course website. I'll show you where that is shortly, so that you can actually view the video as needed. I would anticipate that by 10 p.m. after a class, the link to the video will be available to you. Now, these recordings are meant to help you learn the material here. Don't take advantage of them and say, okay, I'm not going to come to class at all. I want you to come to class. Rather, use these videos as a backup if for some reason, like maybe you're sick, that you're unable to attend class. Or you can use these videos as a way to review the material. So the final exam. Well, the timing can't be any worse, I would say, here at UNL. It's on the last day of finals week. There might be one final exam time period right after that, but that's pretty much it on the Friday of finals week. 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. This is when I'm required to give you the final. I will be giving you the final that day. If you have already made travel plans, let's say if you already bought a plane ticket to go home maybe on Wednesday or Thursday of that week, well, change your travel plans. You need to be here at that day and time to take your final exam. I will not give you a different final exam. I will not give you the exam on a different time. So expectations of students. Understand all the material that's in the course lecture notes. You'll see examples of the course lecture notes very shortly here. I wouldn't put in there if it wasn't important. There will be periodic times where I'll say, oh, don't worry about that. Well, then don't worry about it. But anything that I put in there is essentially fair game for me to ask on the test. Obviously, in this class, R and SAS is extremely important. So make sure you understand all aspects of the computer code that we're going to be talking about. All aspects. One great way then to study for this course is to reproduce all the examples that we've done, that we go over in the lecture notes. What do I mean by that? Well, I don't mean download my computer program, click on a button to run it, and say, oh yeah, it worked. Okay, I reproduced the example. That's it. That's all I need to do. No, no. Go through it line by line. Make sure you understand how to do every single line, and that the results that you get when you run every single line match up with what I got. Also, this is a great opportunity then for you to change the code in terms of, okay, change an option in a particular function in R, or what's called a SAS procedure. Change a particular option. See what happens. And that way, that will help you learn what this code does. In this class, I'm trying to introduce you to the basics of the syntax for the particular code, how to get certain things done, to start developing an intuitive feel for how to do stuff, so that when you go to another class, or when you're actually on your job after this particular, after you graduate, that you're going to be faced with situations that are different than what's in this class. But by having an intuitive feel for how the syntax works, how the code works, you'll think, oh, I bet if I change this, I'll get what I want. That's what I'm trying to develop in this course. Obviously, if you need to review the recordings, complete all the assignments, and please ask questions if something's not clear. Excuse me. Feel free to interrupt me at any time during class with a question. The university also requires me to make some additional statements on my syllabus regarding particular things. I've created a syllabus supplement that contains those statements. You can download it from my course website. I'll show you again where that is shortly. Okay, a few other notes before we get into talking about the course website. So this course is scheduled to meet for an hour and 15 minutes, twice a week. You know, normally that's the amount of time that you would expect for a 3-credit-hour course. Not a 2-credit-hour course, which is what this is. And, you know, again, similar to what I was kind of talking about with the book, you know, this course has not been taught before, and I had to make certain decisions back in during the spring semester, early on in the spring semester, about, you know, well, what time is the course going to be? How long is the course going to be? And so, I know there's, there's a few different teaching approaches that one could use in this kind of course. And so, since I haven't made any teaching materials up yet, I had some general ideas of what I wanted to do. If I haven't made any teaching materials up yet, I decided, okay, how about we make it an hour and 15 minutes every day, or twice a week, and if needed, it's a lot easier to make changes later than it is, or go down in terms of the amount of time every class period is, than to go up. A lot easier. It's hard to find a classroom on East Campus, a decent classroom, I should say. And so that's why I decided to make an hour and 15. Excuse me. Also, I've taught, when I was a professor at Oklahoma State University in the Department of Statistics before coming here, I taught a 1-credit-hour Intro to SAS course for an entire semester. And we met once a week for an hour and 15 minutes, not what you might expect 50 minutes for a 1-credit-hour course. So that's another motivation behind the time. But now that I've taken a lot of time to prepare for this course, what we're going to at least start at the beginning of the course is try to keep it to about 50 minutes per class period. I will tell you that at least for the midterm exam, it will be an hour and 15. Because I want to make sure you have enough time to take the test. And let's take advantage of the time that we have. But we're going to try to keep it, at the 50-minute mark. Maybe I might go over, but again, thinking that you're getting more for your money if I do. So we'll again see how things go. We'll make changes if needed. I believe. I don't remember if it was some of the students that were in the Alpha Seminar course at 810 yesterday. They were asking about the Intro to SAS course offered by Steve Westerholt. Was anybody here who asked me that? Okay. Well, the Intro to SAS course that you might have heard about, it's like a meet twice during the semester in the evening. Don't take it. You're going to get all the Intro to SAS that you need in this course. So don't take that Intro to SAS course. The Intro to SAS course is not a, something for credit. It's just a little tutorial. Okay, so are there any questions regarding the syllabus before we talk about the course website? Okay, so let's take a quick look at the course website. I will not use Blackboard or any course management system this semester except for on two occasions. One, there will be what I call a day number 1 quiz that we'll talk about shortly, that you'll basically do on Blackboard. And 2, when I post final grades. I use it to post final grades because it provides me a nice password-protected system. Okay, so the course website, chrismiller.com/stat850. This is the home page. If we click on section materials, you can see the stuff that we're doing on day number 1 of our course here, such as the picture where my office is, the syllabus. If you want a PDF copy of it, here's that syllabus supplement. And then we're also going to have a listserv associated with this course. And this gives you a little bit of help about how to use it if needed. Then the remainder of the section materials webpage contains all of our learning materials that I put together for you. And it's grouped by SAS, LIX/LaTeX, and also R. And this is the anticipated order that I'm going to follow with the corresponding materials. So today we're going to start our introduction to what SAS is. Now, in this location, for every, you can say subsection, you will be able to find my lecture notes. So today we are going to talk about Introduction to SAS 1per.pdf. And I will actually pass that out to you. Or actually, this is 4 pages per sheet of paper. I'll explain more about that shortly. I will pass that out to you today. But after today, I will not pass out lecture notes in class. So for future classes, you will need to come to this webpage, download the corresponding lecture notes, which will always be in a .pdf file, bring them in a paper format to class and take notes on those lecture notes, or save it to your computer and take notes electronically on that PDF. Also with each section, you're going to see that I have corresponding computer programs. So anything that I do in class has, in terms of using SAS, R, LIX, LaTeX, has an associated, you can say, computer program with it. And so, for example, here's one called serial.sas. So any kind of SAS program has a .sas extension. R programs have .r extensions. The serial.sas program uses a data set called serial.csv. CSV stands for comma separated values. It's a comma delimited format. Here's gpa.sas, another SAS program. gpa.txt stands for, it's a plain ASCII text file that contains some data associated with GPAs. So you can download these programs to your computer, and then let's say after class, run through those programs to make sure that you understand all the components of those. We will talk about most of the components of those programs during our lectures. Now let's talk about these lecture notes that you see here. You see Introduction to SAS 1 per, 2 per, 4 per. Well, this is what 1 per looks like here. I've typed all these lecture notes in LIX. Again, that's one of the main things that we're going to talk about is how to use LIX this semester. We don't get to it, though, until about mid-semester. But I still typed all my lecture notes in there so that eventually when we do get to talking about how to use LIX, you have some great examples of how to type up documents using LIX. And I use about a size 20 font for the main text of these PDF documents. The reason why I use such a large font is so that no matter what classroom I'm in, no matter how good that data projector is, you're going to be able to see what's being displayed. But if you're actually printing out these documents, you probably don't want to have such big print on every sheet of paper. And so what I've done then with the Introduction to SAS 2 per is show you what it would look like if you actually printed, let's say, 2 pages of my lecture notes per sheet of paper. If you were to do 4, which is my personal favorite, this is what it would look like. Obviously, that's very small right there. You're not going to be able to read it right now, but when you print it, it should be readable. Okay? And so I've done that to just show you examples. I encourage you to do 2 pages per sheet of paper or 4 pages per sheet of paper if you print them out. Now, only for the introduction here do I show you what each format looks like. During class, I will always go with the 1 per. So that's why you only see like a 1 per in our next subsection, 1 per in our next subsection, and so on. Are there any questions about that? Also with these lecture notes, I recommend that you don't download them to your computer until maybe a few days before you see that we're going to get to that point of our class. And I'll show you a schedule, anticipated schedule shortly. The reason being is because as I go over these lecture notes, I'm going to probably find some typos, or maybe I want to make some small changes to them. So don't download them until essentially you need them. So don't go download Don't go download the very last lecture notes that we're going to do in December right now. Wait until late November at least. Also with these lecture notes, I purposely type up my lecture notes rather than, let's say, do the old-fashioned teaching technique of I have my lecture notes here and I write them on the board like this, and you're trying to keep up with me as I'm writing on the board, and you're probably not necessarily paying attention to what you're writing down on your piece of paper because you're so interested in making sure that you got everything that I'm writing up. That's why I type them out and I distribute them. In class, we go through these lecture notes where there will be additional content that I will go over that you want to actually write some additional notes on them. Now, I admit that, since maybe I take advantage of the fact that I actually type up my lecture notes too much, and I write sometimes in a style that's more in a paragraph form, maybe more wordy than what I want. I just have so much stuff I want to tell you guys. That's why I do it that way. And also, as another thing that you can do, and I understand that as grad students, you're very busy, but one thing that you can do is prepare for class by reading the lecture notes before class. And so when you come to class, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't understand that part that was in the lecture notes, so that when we actually get to it, you can, if you still have that question, you can ask it. I know when I was in, probably high school, I remember and then in undergrad, college, even maybe in grad school, our professors or teachers will always say, read the book before class so you come prepared. Now, how many of you ever did that? Well, maybe you did it a few times, but typically, at least my experiences, you don't do that. But I encourage you to essentially do the equivalent and read my lecture notes beforehand. Take advantage of these opportunities to learn. Okay, let's see here. Let's talk about the listserv. So I set up this listserv here to facilitate communication amongst all of us at the same time. Simply put, if you email this address here, you'll be posting a message to the listserv. This message will be distributed to everyone who subscribes to the listserv, which will be all students in the class eventually. Also, your email message that you've sent will be archived in a message board format down below. So if I click on August 2016 and we come to my welcome message here, you can see a message that I posted a few weeks ago while I was preparing for our course. What this message does tells you how you can use this listserv. So just real briefly, please feel free to post messages here regarding questions on assignments and other things relevant to the course. So let's say you have a question about problem number 1 on assignment number 1. Don't email that question to me. Email it to the listserv. I will respond to it. Other students are encouraged to respond to it as well. That way we are communicating as one group. Most likely if you have that question, most likely somebody else in the class has exactly the same question as you. And so that way we can all learn together. So there will be times though where you will want to email me stuff directly, such as stuff that's just about you. You're great, or you're going to tell me that you're sick and you can't come to class. Go ahead, email that to me. Most likely the students in our class don't want to know that you're sick, okay, or that or other things that you might email me about. I won't go into details. I've had some embarrassing things that have been posted to the list. Embarrassing for the students, that is. Anyway, if you are not sure whether to post a message to the listserv or email me directly, just ask yourself, will other students benefit from seeing my message? If the answer is yes, post it to the listserv. If the answer is no, email it to me directly. Now, I encourage you to respond to other students' posts. You don't have to wait for me to answer a question. If you know the answer, you're on your computer, go ahead, respond to it. Don't wait for my response. Also, you can use this for other ways just to communicate among students. I've had students, find, let's say, group members before to do various assignments through posting a message to the Listserv. Say, hey, does anyone want to work on the assignment with me? Now, again, when a message is emailed to this, everyone who is subscribed will receive that message in their inbox. But you need to subscribe to get that message. How do you subscribe? Well, down here where you see subscribe. It's a fairly simple process. Type your name, your email address. Go with all the defaults here for subscription options. And at the very bottom here, you're going to see something that will say subscribe as a button. I'm already subscribed, so that's why you don't see it. Just click on the button and you will be subscribed. Now, there are other ways to post messages to the Listserv. You can actually use the web interface to post a message rather than emailing that address directly. And if I just click on it, you can see that this basically works very similar to like what a message board would. If you want to know more about that process, take a look at my Listserv help file that's on the section materials webpage of the course website. Okay, so graded materials. We'll have a number of assignments this semester. Will it be 6? I don't know. It could be 3, it could be 15, it could be 30. We'll see. I put 6 there because I wanted something just to hold the spot on my webpage. There will be a day number 1 quiz. This will likely be the only quiz that we'll have this semester, but we can have other ones too, depending upon your preferences. And we'll talk about that shortly. And then various things associated with tests, they will be located here. So like with the assignments, when I write up assignment number 1, I will post it there. I will post a message to the Listserv saying, hey, assignment number 1's ready. Go start it now. You can go download it. We'll talk about it in our next class further. Various data sets that you might be using with the assignments will be posted there too. And then lastly, we have the schedule web page here. This, as you would imagine, is a tentative schedule. Based upon, from my experience of how many pages I can cover of lecture notes per day, this is what I thought, okay, I think this is a reasonable idea for when we will cover certain things. But again, it is tentative. The only things that are not tentative are the midterm. The midterm will be this particular day. So if by chance you are planning to not be here, change your plans. This is when the midterm is. You need to be here for the midterm. And of course, we have the final exam as well. And you can see what we're talking about here today. We talked about the syllabus, the website. We'll talk about the day number 1 quiz shortly. And hopefully, we will get to the SAS introduction as well. You also see a place called video. So this is where I will post a link to the corresponding video for a particular class. So again, you'll be able to click on that hopefully by 10 p.m. tonight and relive your experience here today. Okay, are there any questions regarding the course website? Okay, let's talk about this day number 1 quiz. This day number 1 quiz is available via my.unl, which is basically a web interface to the course management system called Blackboard. To log on to Blackboard, it's really simple. Go to my.unl.edu, click on UNL login, and put in your username, your password, and you're in. Okay? So you can find where our class is located. Computing tools for stats, Static 50. And unfortunately associated with Blackboard, and one of the reasons why I think we will be stopping the use of Blackboard here eventually at UNL, is that it takes like 5 clicks to do just one thing that you think you should only take 1 click to do. I've been on committees before taking a look at alternatives to Blackboard, and I think finally we're actually demoing a new course management system. Started last year, but the demo's growing, and I anticipate hopefully within a year or two we will do something different than Blackboard. Actually, just in case you're ever curious, it costs over $600,000 a year for us to use Blackboard on this campus. Anyway, so day number 1 quiz, I click on that. And then instructions. Well, yeah, okay, I just want to do day number 1 quiz, continue. And I get to day number 1 quiz. It's really simple, this quiz. So we're going to be worth 5 points. Basically, if you do it, you get 5 points. If you don't do it, you get 0 points. And it's just one of those kinds of things that on a first day of a course, you often have your instructor ask you about, such as your name. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, give me your email address so that I can use that to communicate with you directly if I need to. Tell me your major. Tell me what degree you're pursuing, at least right now, your first degree that you're pursuing. Tell me what stat courses you've taken. It doesn't have to be here at UNL. Tell me the highest math course you've taken. And then we get into questions about your previous experience with the stuff that we're talking about in this course. Question 7 asks about your R experience. Question 8, your SAS experience. And question 9, your LaTeX or LIX experience. Question 10, tell me where you're from. Don't just tell me your country, tell me where you're from. Give me a city. And then lastly, question 11, log on to the Listserv and subscribe to it, similar to what I showed you already. Also, send a test message to prove to me, yes, you can actually send a message on the, to the Listserv. Once you're done with it, you can type down below, I'm done. Make sure you click on Save and Submit. Do not click on Save All Answers. I don't know that you're done. If you do that, click on Save and Submit, and I will know that you are actually done. This day number 1 quiz is due, if I go back to the schedule web page, at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday, August 25th. Any questions? Okay. Let's now get into the lecture notes with a little bit of time that we have remaining. All right. Okay. So let's talk about SAS. In all my subsections of these notes, like Introduction to SAS, Introduction to R we'll have data step regarding SAS, and so on. At the top, I will always put what computer files are associated with the examples that are discussed in the notes. So for example, gpa.sas. And notice that how this all corresponds to, go to section materials, what you see located on the section materials webpage. So let's talk about, well, what is SAS? So SAS is a statistical software package. It was developed in the late 1960s, early 1970s by students and faculty at North Carolina State in the Department of Statistics. It was a big hit, and eventually these faculty left the university. The students graduated. They went to start working at a company that the faculty formed with them called the SAS Institute, and they became quite rich. Excuse me. SAS itself, notice I don't say SAS. SAS itself used to stand for Statistical Analysis System. Similar to if most of you are familiar with AT&T, which was American Telephone and Telegraph a long time ago, and eventually they just said, okay, well, we're just going to name it AT&T, and that's it. SAS is just SAS. It's not Statistical Analysis System anymore. So SAS is a software package that's made by the SAS Institute. When I was going through graduate school in the mid to late 1990s, this was what everyone in statistics, all statisticians that is, used. It was by far the best. This is what I grew up on, you could say. So in all my classes that I had where I had to use statistical software, which was pretty much most, only one I used something else. Now why? Well, SAS had a very good marketing idea, and that is they charged universities a very low price for it. So faculty started using it. The faculty are using it. They're going to have their students use it. And then what happens when the students graduate? Well, they're going to ask the company that they're working for, say, hey, I use this great software package called SAS when I was in grad school. Can I use it here? Can you buy me a license? And the companies would. But the key was for SAS was they charged a huge price for SAS to the companies. Well, that's what their employees wanted. They're not going to be able to get employees unless they say, yes, we do have our employees, we do have SAS available for our employees. So it was a great scheme. I use that in a nice way, that word. A great way to get statisticians, almost all of them, to use SAS. They also had another great idea was you can't just buy SAS and, let's say on a CD or DVD and keep it for forever. We're going to have one-year licenses. Now, a lot of software companies do that now, but back then that was just totally new to do something like that. At least I think it was totally new. I never had heard of it before. And so every year you had to pay, companies had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to update their license. Otherwise, SAS wouldn't work. So things began to change, though. On February 29th, 2000, it was a leap year, the statistical software package called R was released. Now, R, not going into all the details, was based upon a software package called S+, which people had to pay, similar to SAS. It was a lot cheaper, but people still had to pay for it. But the key thing about R was it was free, completely free. And that has caused a lot of changes in statistical software industry and also in departments of statistics and even other departments that use statistical software packages. The predominant software package used by departments of statistics now is R. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with using SAS. Lots of people still use SAS. SAS and R are the two biggies when it comes to statistical software packages. And as a student, you definitely need to learn how to use both. In my own personal experience, I started teaching with R in, first time I ever used it in a class was spring 2003. The last time I used SAS to teach with in a class was fall 2005. The last time I used SAS for any of my research was about 2008 or 2009. I completely converted myself to using R, as many people have, because it's free. And there's a lot of other advantages to it that paid software companies just don't have. And once we talk about R, I will discuss it. Again, SAS is very powerful, though, still. And I will emphasize this, I will repeat myself. As a graduate student, you do need to learn both, because when you go and graduate, There will be companies out there that will be just for SAS. A lot of the newer companies that have formed since 2000, like Google, Facebook, those kinds of companies, they don't use SAS, they use R completely. At least I don't work there, but this is what I've seen through going to conferences and communicating with some of these people. I hope I'm not trying to bias you in any way, but I don't think I can stand up here and talk about how to use these software packages without giving some of my impressions. Other faculty in this department and at other universities will disagree with me, but I at least wanted to tell you that. It will be interesting to see how things evolve in 5, 10, and so on years. Maybe something else will replace R and SAS. There's a package called Julia out there that's gotten a lot of press recently. If you've heard of Python, that's gained a lot of users as well, mainly more from computer science rather than statisticians. But as we go through the years, a lot of things that the computer scientists are doing is very similar to what the statisticians are doing in some areas. So maybe Python will become more dominant. But at least for statisticians, R and SAS, that's where it's at right now. And so that's why we're going to spend a lot of time talking about them. Now, I know I'm over. Perhaps I shouldn't have told you about the 15-minute thing until after I was done here today. I just want to talk about installation. You need to have access to SAS for the next about 6 weeks. So, you can't, and I think this is one of the problems that SAS has. You can't just go to SAS.com and download it and pay for it that way. You can't. What was maybe an advantage for how they were doing the distributing of SAS in the past is not necessarily an advantage for them right now. The only basically way that you can get SAS is you can go through our department, Department of Statistics. We are the distributors of SAS for the entire University of Nebraska system. Go to the office, talk to one of our secretaries, Tiffany, who's there, and say, I want SAS. And she'll say, okay, please give me, does anyone know how much it costs? I don't. $30. 30. Okay, like $30. Please give me $30. And then what she'll do is she'll send you to our computer support specialist in our department. His name is Steve Westerholt. And he will actually install SAS on your own computer. Obviously, it's a laptop. If you have a desktop, he has some other options of what can be done to actually install it. He prefers to install it all himself. And the reason is, first of all, SAS, the software package itself, is very large. It's over 10 gigabytes in size. So it does take some time. Hopefully you have a solid-state drive to help speed things up. Also, he says that there's some complicated things that can occur during it. I've done all the SAS installations in my lifetime myself. And to prepare for this course, I've installed the latest version of SAS version 9.4 on 2 of my computers, and I've had no problems installing it. It does take some time, but I've had no problems installing it. But the way that things are set up right now, you do need to talk to Steve Westerholt if you're a student to have him install it. If you have any problems in getting it, you need to come talk to me, because I'll figure out what's going on, why there's a problem with it. You need to do this SAS installation thing soon. I recommend by the end of the week, get access to some place that has SAS. Strongly recommend that you install it on your own computer. If by chance you don't want to install it on your own computer, we do have some computers available in the stat department for students to use. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, then that is it for today.